Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I am so excited to talk about today's topic. We are going to talk about another topic that is getting louder and louder. I keep hearing it. I keep seeing it. It is getting loud. And it's only going to get louder because, similar to what we talked about 2 episodes ago, we are all going through a collective upgrade. And that collective upgrade is that we all need to know that we have control of our destiny, that no savior is going to come save us from anything, that we can create our life and we have to be the creator of our life. We are little mini sources that create our life. Now, with that, because when we have a collective upgrade, similar to when we went through COVID and all of that, it shakes up a lot within us and it causes a lot of limitations and beliefs and actions and habits to come to the surface. And today's topic, we're going to talk about one of them, and it all stems from this feeling because of this collective upgrade. We tend to all be feeling this very hum of that it feels like there's more on the line in life now more than ever. And because of that, it's kicking up this old habit that we have all learned from society, from contagions, from a very low frequency way of living. And before we get into the topic, I kind of want to talk about that for a second, because this is why I live and breathe everything that I teach, because there is the human way of living and then there's the spiritual way of living. And the human way is this very low frequency, limited way. The spiritual way is constantly seeing a higher frequency, expansive way of living. But with that, it means we need tools and understandings to get rid of this lower frequency belief and limitations that we have. Because I want you to realize that our brain only can think about 3 things at once, tops. That is what you're conscious of. And you'll hear me talk about your subconscious a lot. We hear that all the time in the spiritual world. The problem is our subconscious is we're completely unaware of it. It is just running itself. It's doing what it wants. So all these tools out there of just like focus on the positive and don't worry, these aren't your thoughts and yada, yada, yada. You have a whole system, a whole subconscious system that is running programs that you have learned from the moment you started to program them, which around 6 years old is when you really start to sink your teeth into these are the programs, these are the habits I believe. So we learn all of these lower frequency beliefs. And when we're that young, we take them on as our own. Now, human way of living, lots of limitations, lots of ways that shut our power down. And those are our subconscious programs. So whether you are aware of it or not, you have programs that are going to run and change how you act, how you see the world, how you treat yourself, and all of it. And today's topic is so important of how we treat ourselves so we don't get this ripple effect that happens back to us. And so it's all around this subject matter of penalizing ourselves, punishing ourselves. Now, you may sit here and say, I don't do that. If you've ever gotten a parking ticket, a driving ticket, being sued, any of these things, even a penalization for not following certain laws of, your yard, or if you're a part of a living collective and they penalize you for doing something wrong, then you have penalized yourself. Because getting a ticket, getting those things are a reflection of penalizing yourself. We'll get into that in a little bit. But I want to go back to my point of there are these beliefs. So this belief of it's okay to penalize myself is a subconscious program. You may ask, where did you get this from? Well, at a very young age, if you can think back, and memories are skewed, but just think back how often we have learned that there is right or wrong and good and bad. And if you don't follow those things, you could have something taken away. So I can't tell you how many times I've seen parents take something away from their child because they quote unquote did something bad. That is the penalization. I want to be clear that penalizing means you're doing an act of saying you are now removing something from your life. It is going one step farther into you have done something bad. I'm going to beat you up to you have done something bad. I'm going to remove something from you. I'm going to take something from you. I remember as a teenager in high school, I remember very vividly, I had a group of friends and I upset one of them. And because I upset this person and there was all these reflections going on, they were like, well, you can't be a part of our friendship group anymore. That was the penalization, that I can no longer be a part of this group. It went away because reflections changed. But there's these moments that we have learned. And I want to be very clear that the human way of living is that it is limitations, rules, regulations, a structure that keeps you in a boundary. That is going to be the human way of living. The spiritual way of living is constantly saying, how can I see this in a more expansive way? This is why most religions have a lot of human living in it, which means, again, human living means it came from a human. It did not come from source. Source would never penalize you. So in religions where it says you have sinned, and if you don't do X, Y, and Z, something will happen, that came from human. That came from a human that had fears, that had doubts, that felt powerless, that created a rule to, and it could come from, I will give the benefit of the doubt, some of it could come from actually thinking that it would cause something better. But more the case is that it's come from people who are in such a fear-based place that it's a form of control. But just know that the humans create all of these beliefs. So multiple humans believe that punishment is okay. It is allowed. We can go as extreme as the death penalty. You now lose your entire life for doing something. Huge punishment. It's the human that creates the punishment, not source. Source did not create and does not see and accept and think that that is the way to live, of punishment or penalizing is the right way to go. Now, I know this might kick things up because you might be going, okay, well, that person deserves it. And this is where I will say, this is why it's so important for us to understand the laws of the universe, understand the science of it all, because just on a scientific level, energy is both good and bad at the same time. So if we're going to penalize somebody or something for bad, there's also good in it. And we have to be in that space to actually expand and have a more limitless, amazing life. So just know it takes time. And I know if any of this is triggering, just give it a beat and understand that the more you embody the way source sees the world, that limitless way, the more you're going to understand that these actions and these beliefs are not only, even if you want to stand behind them and say, this is the way it should be because that person deserves it. And we talked about this in the last episode on forgiveness. It really is going to end up hurting you because you're going to use those same rules on yourself. And that's where it gets extremely dangerous, because the minute you use the rules on yourself, you penalize yourself now. You put it on your electromagnetic field. It now creates that to happen back to you. So it's a vicious cycle. So if you sit and say, well, that person deserves to be penalized, then you're going to go, okay, well, now I have that program in my body to now do it towards myself. And now you're just in a cycle of everyone's getting punished, including yourself. And how do you get out of it? Where is the out? And that is the difference of going, human way of living is going to limit me. It's going to cause pain, problems. The spiritual source way of living is that way of reprogramming our entire system to see the world, not just logically know it. Because I know a lot of you might go, I do believe and logically know that everything is good and bad, or everything is a reflection, everything is me. There's so many laws that you may intellectually understand, but there is a difference between intellectually understanding it and embodying it and seeing your life through that lens, which means being able to see every situation, and I mean everyone, going, no penalizing should happen to the worst person in the world, to myself. Because if you're seeing it in that way, that means you're actually living and embodying laws of the universe, source's way of seeing everything as perfection. And so today's topic is one of those programs that we have taken on from a human viewpoint. We have taken on a human belief, not a source belief, which means you are going to be living in a human way, which means you will never reach the places you want to reach if we live in a human way. We will be stuck in a barricade, stuck. And the only way we get to that source way of living is by letting go of these ways of living. And penalizing ourselves is a huge, huge thing. And it's only becoming louder because, like I said, there is this collective feeling of there's more on the line. So if we believe that there's more on the line, which there isn't, right? Law of balance. But if we feel that, we're going to be much harder on ourselves. We don't have as much wiggle room, which is what's happening. Humans are not giving themselves more wiggle room now. And so because there's more on the line, and that means less wiggle room, that means more penalizing, which means we're going to get more reflections of that. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard lately people talking about getting sued or being threatened to be sued or parking tickets. You go along the PCH right now, there's cops everywhere giving people tickets everywhere. And it's just getting louder because of this internal program that humans are living by, that we've been programmed to take on. And like I said, you only can think about 3 thoughts at once. So you may go, I'm not penalizing myself, but there's a subconscious program that's running. So whether we like it or not, it is going to be active if we don't remove it. And so this program is going, if I do or don't do X, Y, and Z, I deserve to be punished. And that is a program that's been instilled because of things that have been done to us. And depending on how old you are, you're talking years of seeing this, experiencing it, that our body thinks it's totally okay to punish ourselves and penalize ourselves. And so I want you to realize that right now there might be thoughts that come up, and it could be tied to, I didn't hit a timeline, so now I penalize myself, which means you're taking something away from yourself. Meaning I had this happen to myself a few years ago, and it just blew my mind that that's how I was programmed. Just subconsciously, it did this, where I'm trying to remember, I don't fully remember what I quote unquote thought I did, but it was something along of not hitting a timeline on time, which is completely false. But my human self was like, we didn't hit this on time. It's taking too long. Which then I go, well, because of that, you are not going to get the relationship you want, which means you are now being penalized to remove this person out of your life. He's not going to exist. He's going to never come in your life now because you screwed this up. So I made this subconscious in a split second. I wasn't conscious of the thought. And that is what I want you guys to realize. This is why I live and breathe reflections. If this is new to you, please listen back to the first episode. Reflections are here to help us see what our subconscious is doing. It's why it's so important. So in that moment, I think I got a very large ticket. And that was my reflection mirror of saying, hey, subconsciously, you are penalizing yourself for something. This is why I use everything around me, because I don't know what my subconscious is doing. I don't care how intuitive you are. I don't care what the tools we have. We don't have time to sit there and just talk about our subconscious. It's impossible. It's subconscious. It's somewhere being played. It's a bunch of programs. And trust me, I do this all day long, and I don't have enough time. We have so many programs. So the reflections in our life, this is why everything is energy, why this system is so perfect, is that reflections are there to help you see what your subconscious is doing. And so when that happened, I was like, oh no, I just penalized myself and I didn't even realize that, which then made me go, I have programs in me that cause me to penalize myself. That's not okay. That is not in the line of source. That is in the line of human. That is the line of limitation and structure and rules. That is not okay. That is going to harm me. It's going to stop me from getting where I want to go. So in a moment, and I'm talking a split second, something happened where all of a sudden on Tuesday, the 18th, I was like, I missed a timeline. I'm behind, which means I don't get a partner. And again, just to be clear, this is subconscious, which means I don't even remember having the thought because it's subconscious. Then my electromagnetic field created the reflection to get me to see it. Again, why I live and breathe this way of living is because that helped me see this split-second moment. And that's what I want to be very clear on today, is that there are these moments that we don't even know we're having. And the imbalance, the way of viewing ourselves and not loving ourselves, there's a moment that happens, and then that moment tips us into an imbalanced state, creates an ingredient on our electromagnetic field, gets pushed out, and then gets created. And this is the stuff that's wreaking havoc on our life, which is why it's so important to live and learn all the universal laws, how source sees things, so that we can get these subconscious moments and get rid of them. Trust me, you might go, oh, I'm not doing this. And our egos love to go, oh, it's not a thing. It's not happening. And I'm like, well, if it's getting created, it's a thing. And like I said, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people talk about being sued. This is another one that's going to get super, super loud. And that is a penalization of our actions, which means we have sat in a very long time of thinking our actions are incorrect. We've done something wrong and we deserve to be penalized for it. So then we, in that split second, decide to penalize ourselves. And it could be, well, because of these actions, I'm never going to get the money I want. So you now no longer get that. It is a choice that we are actually scolding ourselves. We are taking something away from ourselves. And the law of abundance, that goes completely against it. We have everything and anything we need in our own universe, in our own body. We have everything. We are our own entity, which means for us to say, you no longer can have this, that goes against that law. We can always have everything, and we should, and we deserve it, and it's all ours. But because of this very low frequency human way of living, we now do that to ourselves. And just as another example, a speeding ticket, it is penalizing ourselves for rushing. So we could be thinking, I rushed this, so I screwed something up, and now I don't get X, Y, and Z. The trick to this is you need to know what you're penalizing yourself for and what you took away from yourself. If you know those things, you can remove the ingredient off your field and the thing can go away. The suing can stop. If you're getting threatened to be sued, it is a warning of saying you are now threatening yourself of removing something out of your life. You're about to penalize yourself. Don't do it. Run and thank the person for threatening you, because it's giving you the message of this penalization. And so again, I want to talk about this subject today because it's getting louder. And to go where we really need to go, you'll hear me talk about this all the time. We have to fail. We have to get out of our comfort zone, which means we're going to fail. And if we log things as good and bad, we are then going to then think something is bad and then penalize ourselves subconsciously. So this week, after listening to this, really start to ruminate on how you can remove this penalization from yourself, whether that is learning more of the laws of the universe so that you can understand that there should be zero penalizations just based off of science, just based off of energy and how it works. Also understanding that source sees everything as perfect, which that means we are many sources. We have to get to a place of embodying and seeing everything as perfect, which means if we do see it as perfect, why would we ever penalize ourselves? There is none of that. Getting to a place that believing that belief came from a human limitation brain, not a intuitive source space. And really sitting with that and knowing that there's a bunch of those, that there are many beliefs that you believe that are human, and they're not a source belief, and they are running your life. Those beliefs, those humans that inserted it into you. And knowing that if anything ever goes wrong, it's not because you did something wrong. It's because you learned the wrong belief. The teachers of the world taught you the wrong information. It is their fault, not yours. We're not going to put blame because it was all part of the plan. Obviously, before we come into this lifetime, we choose what beliefs we're going to take on so we can conquer them, overcome them, get to our soul pole. It's a whole thing. So it's all, again, perfect. But I really want you to sit with this understanding of human beliefs versus source beliefs and how so much of our subconscious is all these human beliefs. And penalizing, taking something away from ourselves, should never be an action. It should never be an action. And if you have kids, don't worry if you've done this. You have not harmed them. It was all part of the plan. But be careful with when something goes wrong, that there isn't oh, well, now you don't get a video game because this didn't happen. Because that's the program that we all now start to run with, is that penalizing is okay. So we can actually remove all tickets from this universe if we were to all get on board and know that a penalization is not okay. It is not a source point of view. It is not a limitless point of view. And the more we go into this source perspective of things, it's how we are all going to thrive. Again, I want you to remember that all these limited belief systems came from humans that were in such a state of fear and feeling powerless that they created a rule to control. Control is going to keep us all in the same place, limited, and not in our genius, and not expansive, and not helping each other become the best of the best. So trust me, it will help the entire world if you go in this direction. So keep in mind, suing, tickets, there's many other reflections, but those are big ones that we're going to see more and more of, because it is indicating that we're in this space of a very limited way of living, that we think that it's okay to take something from ourselves. And we have everything. We should never take anything from ourselves. And trust me, you don't deserve that. And that action that we would do that to ourselves is so ingrained. And when you really think about it, that is such an awful way to treat ourselves. And you'll see that the more you follow the source perspective, it's a way of loving ourselves in the deepest, deepest, deepest ways. And when I realized this about penalization and all the nooks and crannies of it, which there's quite a few, of realizing how do I remove that from my own system, it became very clear to me that, wow, I actually think it's okay to take something from myself. And I think that that's deserving. And it's never deserving, because trust me, I know you guys, if you're listening to this, you have worked your butt off to try to understand yourself, try to get where you want to go. And if anything's in the way, it's not you. It's a program. It's the wrong information. It's not a you fault. So there is never a time, never, that you should take something away from yourself. Even if you are ruminating on something that you won't forgive yourself on, listen to last episode. It'll help with that. And this is what I mean. All the tools feed each other. If you ever get stuck where you're like, I can't let this thing go, and that's why, well, then there's probably another spiritual understanding, tool, bigger belief that needs to be instilled to remove that. Think of it as just like the minute you get to a space that's locked, there is a higher frequency understanding to unlock it. And then that expands. There's never a spot where you should get to and going, that's it. This is why I will believe this human belief. It means you're just missing information. There's better information for you out there. And that's what you should be going for, is the most expansive information. And if your ego flares up or anything flares up, it is an indicator that there's probably more human beliefs that are keeping you trapped. So play with this week. Let me know how this all feels. Again, if anything triggers you when we talk about any of these topics, I get it. Your ego flares up out of protection, but just know that it's an indicator that you're actually going in the right direction. As you go into this spiritual way of living, it is outside the box. It is getting out of that container that these beliefs keep you in, which means it feels as if no one is going to understand you. So you're threatened by losing your tribe, your people. And I promise you, people are going to love you more if you love yourself more. If you treat yourself better, it goes on your field and you get more of it. So trust me, you want to be outside your comfort zone. But play with this. You want to remove penalizing from your field, which means never taking something away from you, never taking away time, people, situations, circumstances. That is not an action we're going to do towards ourselves, of removing and saying, well, because you didn't do this or because you did this, now you don't get X, Y, and Z. That should never, ever be something that we play with ourselves or with others. So play with that. Let me know how it feels. It is so great to have you. Thanks for joining. Thank you so much for joining. It means the absolute world to me. My goal is to reach as many people as I possibly can, and I cannot do this without you. So please like, subscribe, comment, and most importantly, share this with anyone you feel like it would resonate with. Again, I cannot do this without you, so thank you.